The emergency room at Sewell National University Hospital was quieter than usual that rainy night. Dr. Han Da-won sipped his third cup of coffee as he looked through patient files. The clock on the wall showed 11:45 p.m., and he had another hour left in his shift. Just one peaceful night, he muttered to himself. That's all I ask for. As if the universe heard his words and decided to play a joke, the emergency room doors burst open. 3 tall figures wearing black suits rushed in, followed by soldiers in dark uniforms he had never seen before. "We need Dr. Han Da-won immediately," one of the men in black announced. His voice was firm but controlled. Day-won stood up, his white coat slightly wrinkled from his long shift. "I'm Dr. Han." The man walked up to him and showed a badge that made Da-won's eyes widen. It was from the National Intelligence Service. "Doctor, you need to come with us right now. This is a matter of national security." Before Day-won could ask questions, they led him to a private elevator he didn't even know existed in the hospital. The elevator went down instead of up, taking them to what looked like an underground parking area. "What's going on?" Da-won finally asked as they walked through the dimly lit space. "You'll understand soon," the agent said. "But first, you need to sign these papers." They handed him a stack of documents, non-disclosure agreements. Da-won quickly signed them, his hand shaking slightly from both curiosity and nervousness. They approached a large black van with tinted windows. When the doors opened, Da-won froze. On a stretcher lay what appeared to be a young woman, but something was very different about her. Her skin had a slight purple tint that seemed to shimmer under the parking lot lights. Her hair was silver, not gray, but actually metallic silver, and seemed to float slightly as if underwater. "This is Princess Era," one of the agents said quietly. "She's not from Earth." Day-won's medical training kicked in as he noticed the wound on her side. It was unlike anything he had ever seen. A deep gash that seemed to glow from within, pulsing with a faint blue light. "She was injured during an emergency landing," explained a new voice. A woman in a military uniform stepped forward. "I'm Commander Yang. The princess's ship was hit by space debris while approaching Earth for a diplomatic mission. We managed to keep this quiet so far, but she needs immediate medical attention." Day-won leaned closer to examine the wound. Despite its alien nature, he could see that the injury was severe. "Why me?" he asked, not taking his eyes off the patient. "You're known for handling unusual cases," Commander Yang said. "And more importantly, you're known for being discreet. The princess's father specifically requested a Korean doctor because of our country's medical reputation. You were at the top of the list." They quickly moved the princess to a special room that had been prepared in the hospital's secret underground level. As Day-won put on his surgical gloves, he noticed that his hands had stopped shaking. This was what he was trained for, helping people, even if they weren't exactly people as he knew them. The monitors they attached to the princess showed readings he had never seen before. Her heartbeat, or whatever organ was making that sound, had a triple rhythm instead of the usual human double beat. Her blood was thick and silvery, moving through her veins like liquid metal. "Her body temperature needs to be kept at exactly -15 degrees Celsius, Commander Yang informed him. "Any warmer and her healing process will fail." Day-won nodded, his mind already racing through possible treatment approaches. He would have to forget everything he knew about human anatomy and think differently. This was no longer about following standard procedures. This was about innovation, about finding new ways to help. As he prepared for what would surely be the most unusual surgery of his career, Day-won felt a strange sense of calm. Here he was, about to perform surgery on an alien princess, and all he could think about was the basic principle that had guided his entire medical career. Every patient, no matter who or what they were, deserved his best effort. "Okay," he said, looking at the team of specially selected nurses and assistants around him. "Let's begin. Someone turn the temperature down, and get me the finest suture materials we have. We're about to make medical history, even if nobody outside this room will ever know about it." The lights dimmed to accommodate the princess's sensitivity to Earth's lighting, and the only sound was the strange triple beat of her alien heart on the monitor. Dr. Han Da-won took a deep breath and made his first incision, stepping into a new chapter of his life that would change not just his world, but two civilizations forever. The cold bit into Dr. Han Da-won's fingers as he worked. Even through his thermal gloves, the -15-degree temperature was challenging. But he couldn't think about that now. The alien princess lay before him, her silvery blood flowing from the glowing wound. Her vital signs are dropping, one of the nurses said, her voice shaking slightly as she watched the strange patterns on the monitor. Dae-won looked at the injury more closely. The regular surgical tools weren't working well with the princess's unusual skin. It seemed to react differently to metal instruments, almost pulling away from them. "Get me the plastic surgical kit," he ordered, his mind racing. If metal was causing a reaction, perhaps non-metallic tools would work better. Commander Yong stood in the corner, watching tensely. "Doctor, her father's ship will arrive in 6 hours. If she's not stable by then." She didn't need to finish the sentence. Dae-won understood the stakes. Earth's first official contact with an alien civilization couldn't begin with the death of their princess. The plastic tools worked better. But now he faced another problem. The princess's wound wasn't just a simple cut. The glowing blue light seemed to prevent the edges from staying together. "It's like trying to stick two magnets together the wrong way," Dae-won muttered. Then an idea struck him. "Quick, does anyone have a UV light?" A nurse handed him a small UV lamp used for certain skin treatments. When he shined it on the wound, something amazing happened. The blue glow dimmed slightly, and the tissue began to respond more normally. "Of course," he said, getting excited. "Her biology must use a different part of the light spectrum. The injury is photoreactive." He worked quickly now, using the UV light to control the wound's strange properties, while stitching it with special plastic sutures. The princess's vital signs began to stabilize. Just then, Dr. Song Jae-yun burst into the operating room, wearing a protective suit against the cold. "Da-won, I came as soon as I got the call. What do you need?" Jae-yun was the hospital's best researcher, and right now, Da-won needed her brain. "Look at these readings," he said, nodding toward the monitors. "Have you ever seen anything like this?" She studied the patterns carefully. "The closest thing I've seen was in deep-sea creatures. See this triple rhythm? It's similar to how some deep ocean fish process energy." This gave Da-won another idea. "Get me some bioluminescent compound from the Marine Research Lab," he told Jae-yun. "The kind they use to study deep-sea life." While they waited, Da-won kept working, using everything he had learned in his years of emergency medicine. But he was also doing something he had never done before, inventing new medical procedures on the spot. When the bioluminescent compound arrived, he carefully applied it around the wound. The effect was immediate. The princess's tissue began to accept the sutures better, and her vital signs grew stronger. "It's working," Commander Yong said, stepping closer to watch. "Her biology must use light for healing," Dae-won explained as he worked. "Just like some Earth creatures use bioluminescence, her people probably evolved to use light energy for tissue repair." The next few hours were intense. Dae-won combined Earth medicine with his theories about the princess's alien biology. He used UV light to control the wound's reaction, bioluminescent compounds to promote healing, and plastic tools to avoid any negative reactions. Finally, after what seemed like forever, he stepped back from the operating table. "I think we did it," he said, his voice tired but relieved. The wound was closed, its blue glow now a gentle shimmer under the new tissue. The princess's vital signs were strong and steady, showing patterns that Commander Yong said were normal for her species. "Her father's ship will land in 1 hour," Commander Yong said, checking her phone. "Perfect timing, Doctor." Dae-won pulled off his surgical gloves, his hands shaking from cold and exhaustion. Jae-yun handed him a cup of hot coffee, which he gratefully accepted. You just performed the first successful alien surgery on Earth, she said quietly. Too bad you can never put it on your resume. He laughed softly, but his mind was already working on something else. If the princess's people used light for healing, what other biological differences did they have? What could human medicine learn from them? As if reading his thoughts, Commander Yong spoke up. Dr. Han, this isn't the end. It's just the beginning. The king will want to talk to you when he arrives. Day One nodded, sipping his coffee and watching the steady rise and fall of the princess's chest. He had done something impossible today, but somehow he felt this was just the first step into a much bigger adventure. 3 days after the surgery, Princess Era opened her eyes for the first time. Dr. Han Da-won was checking her vital signs when he noticed her silver eyes focusing on him. The room was still kept cold, but they had raised the temperature slightly to -10 degrees as she showed signs of improvement. Hello, he said softly, not sure if she could understand him. I'm Dr. Han Da-won. You're safe. To his surprise, she answered in perfect Korean. You're the one who healed me. Her voice had a musical quality, like wind chimes in a gentle breeze. You speak Korean. Da-won couldn't hide his amazement. The princess smiled weakly. We learned the languages of worlds we plan to visit. Your Korean is actually quite different from what I learned. It has evolved since our last data update. Commander Yong, who had barely left the room in 3 days, stepped forward. Princess, how are you feeling? Better, Era said, trying to sit up. Da-won quickly adjusted her bed to help her. The healing light you used, it was clever. We didn't think humans had discovered light-based medicine yet. We haven't. Not really, Da-won explained. I just noticed how your tissue responded to different types of light and used what we had available. The bioluminescent compound was just a lucky guess. Era's silver hair shifted slightly, and Da-won realized it was responding to her emotions. A lucky guess that saved my life. Father says humans are full of surprises. Over the next few days, as Era grew stronger, Da-won found himself learning as much as he was teaching. The princess was curious about everything. Earth medicine, human culture, and especially Korean food, though she could only eat certain things due to her different biology. What is this called again? She asked one morning, pointing to the tablet Da-won was using to check her charts. It's a computer tablet, he explained. We use it to keep medical records. How primitive, she said, then quickly added, I'm sorry, that was rude. It's just, we stopped using physical devices for data storage centuries ago. We keep everything in light-based crystal matrices. Da-won wasn't offended. Instead, he was fascinated. How does that work? As Era explained her people's technology, Dr. Song Jae-yun came in with the latest test results. The princess's wound was healing remarkably fast, the tissue regenerating at a rate they had never seen before. It's because of the light therapy you used, Era explained. Our bodies are designed to absorb and use light energy. The bioluminescent compound you applied works similarly to our healing crystals. Jae-yun's eyes lit up with excitement. Could this technology be adapted for human patients? Perhaps, Era said thoughtfully. Though human biology is very different. You use such interesting chemical processes for everything. It's quite remarkable how you survive. Despite the clinical setting, a comfortable routine developed. In the mornings, Da-won would check Era's wound and vital signs. Then they would spend time talking about their different worlds. Era was especially interested in Korean dramas, which she had discovered on a tablet Commander Yong gave her. Your stories are so emotional, she said one afternoon while watching a popular drama. My people tend to focus on logic and science. But these human dramas, they make me feel things. Da-won noticed that her hair would change patterns depending on which scene she was watching, shifting like quicksilver, in response to the emotions she was experiencing. The medical staff had to wear special cooling suits to work in the cold room, but nobody complained. They were all fascinated by their unusual patient. Era would often ask them questions about their lives. their families, and their work. Humans care so much about each other, she observed to Day One. Even strangers. On my world, we're much more reserved. Is that good or bad? Day One asked. Era's hair shifted thoughtfully. Different. Not good or bad. But I think we could learn from each other. As the days passed, Day One realized that this was more than just a medical case. It was becoming a bridge between two civilizations. Every conversation, every shared moment of understanding, was building something new. Dr. Han, Era said one evening as he was preparing to end his shift. Thank you. Not just for saving my life, but for showing me that advanced technology isn't everything. Sometimes the best solutions come from simply caring enough to try something new. Day One smiled, but before he could respond, Commander Yang entered the room with an urgent expression. Princess, Doctor, the king has just landed. He's on his way here now. The temperature in Princess Era's room dropped even lower as they prepared for King Taho's arrival. Dr. Han One watched as special machines sprayed frozen mist into the air, making the room more comfortable for the alien visitors. Father prefers the cold, Era explained, her silver hair moving excitedly. He says Earth is too warm. Commander Yang stood by the door, talking quietly into her phone. The whole hospital was in lockdown, with government agents everywhere. Even the president of South Korea was on his way. Suddenly, everyone stood straight as heavy footsteps approached. The door opened, and King Taho entered. He was tall, nearly 7 feet, with the same shimmering purple skin as his daughter. His hair was like flowing platinum, moving in waves around his head. He wore what looked like armor made of crystal and light. My daughter, he said in perfect Korean, moving quickly to Era's bed. When I heard about the accident, I feared the worst. Father, Era smiled. Dr. Han saved my life. He used earth medicine in ways we never thought possible. The king turned to look at Day One, his silver eyes seeming to look right through him. So you are the human doctor who helped my daughter. Day One bowed deeply. Your Majesty, I only did what any doctor would do. No, King Taho said firmly. What you did was extraordinary. Our own healers said Era's injury was too severe to treat with Earth's primitive technology. Yet you found a way. Just then, more people entered the room. The president of South Korea arrived with his advisors, all looking nervous but excited. This was humanity's first official meeting with alien royalty. Welcome to Earth, Your Majesty, the president said, bowing. We hope this can be the beginning of friendship between our worlds. King Taho nodded gracefully. Indeed. Though I must say, this is not how I planned our first meeting. We were supposed to land officially next month with proper ceremonies. Sometimes accidents lead to better beginnings, Era said softly. Look how much we've already learned about humans by being here. The king walked around the room, studying the medical equipment with interest. Your technology is simple, yet you use it in creative ways. Dr. Han, my healers would like to learn how you treated my daughter. Day One felt everyone's eyes on him. Of course, Your Majesty. I would be happy to share what I learned. Though I must say, I learned just as much from treating Princess Era. The next few hours were filled with meetings and discussions. The president and King Taho talked about diplomatic relations, while other officials discussed everything from trade agreements to cultural exchange programs. Dr. Song Jae-yun joined them later, bringing detailed reports of Era's recovery. The princess's healing rate is remarkable, she explained to everyone. The combination of our bioluminescent compounds and her natural abilities has produced amazing results. This could be the beginning of a medical partnership, King Taho said thoughtfully. Perhaps we were wrong to think Earth medicine was primitive. You simply found different solutions to the same problems. Commander Yang, who had been quiet until now, spoke up. Your Majesty, there is one concern. Some news agencies are asking questions about the unusual activities at the hospital. We can't keep this secret much longer. The king turned to the president. Then perhaps it's time to tell your people about us. But first, He looked at Day One again. We must discuss how to thank the doctor who saved my daughter's life. That's not necessary, Day One said quickly. It's my job to help people, no matter where they're from. Era's hair sparkled as she smiled. Father, I have an idea about that. Something that could help both our worlds. King Teho listened as his daughter whispered something to him. His expression changed from surprise to interest. Yes, that could work. Dr. Han, would you be willing to meet with me privately tomorrow? I have a proposal for you. Before Day One could answer, alarms started blaring throughout the hospital. Commander Yong's phone buzzed urgently. Your Majesty, Mr. President, she said, her face tense. We have a problem. Someone leaked photos of the princess online. The whole world is about to know we're not alone. The world outside the hospital was chaos. News channels showed crowds gathering in the streets, all trying to get a glimpse of the alien visitors. But inside Princess Era's cold room, Dr. Han Da-won focused on his patient's final checkup. Your wound has healed completely, he told her, studying the silvery scar on her side. I've never seen tissue repair itself this fast. Thanks to your creative treatment, Era said, her hair moving gently. Father was very impressed when our healers studied your methods. Commander Yong entered the room, looking tired but relieved. The initial panic is settling down. The president's announcement about peaceful first contact helped. People are excited more than scared. King Teho arrived shortly after, his crystal armor gleaming under the special lights they had installed. Dr. Han, it's time we discussed your reward. Really, Your Majesty, that's not necessary. Da-won started. The king held up his hand. Please, you not only saved my daughter, but also helped create a peaceful first contact between our worlds. You deserve something special. He pulled out what looked like a small crystal, about the size of a phone. When he held it up, it projected a hologram of a massive medical facility. This is the Royal Medical Academy on our homeworld, King Tahoe explained. The most advanced healing center in our part of the galaxy. We would like you to join us there. Day One stared at the hologram in amazement. The building seemed to be made entirely of light and crystal, with technology he could barely understand. Join you? You mean? We want you to become the first human royal physician, Era said excitedly. You would learn our healing arts and help create new treatments that combine both our medical knowledge. You would have access to technology thousands of years ahead of Earth's, the king added. Knowledge that could revolutionize medicine on both our worlds. Commander Yong stepped forward. The government has already approved this. They see it as a wonderful opportunity for Earth-Lyra relations. Day One sat down heavily in his chair. The offer was incredible, beyond anything he could have imagined. But something bothered him. Would I have to leave Earth permanently? He asked. Initially, yes, King Tahoe said. The training takes 3 Earth years. After that, you could split your time between worlds as you wish. Dr. Song Jae-yun came in during this conversation, carrying final test results. When she heard the offer, her eyes widened. Da-won, this is amazing. Think of all you could learn, all the people you could help with that knowledge. But she knew her friend well enough to see his struggle. Here on Earth, Da-won helped people every day. He had family here, a life he had built. Could he leave it all behind? There's something else, Era said softly. Show him, Father. King Teho nodded and touched the crystal again. The hologram changed to show something that made Da-won gasp. It was a medical device, but unlike anything on Earth, it seemed to use pure light to heal injuries. This is a restoration chamber, the king explained. It can heal injuries that Earth medicine considers fatal. It can regrow lost limbs, repair brain damage, even reverse some genetic conditions. And you would teach me how to use this? Da-won asked, his voice barely a whisper. More than that, Era said. You would help us adapt it for human biology. Imagine being able to bring this technology back to Earth someday. The possibility made Dawan's head spin. How many lives could be saved? How many people could be helped? You don't have to decide right now, King Tahoe said kindly. Take some time to think about it. But just then, Dr. Song Jia-yun's tablet started beeping urgently. She looked at it, and her face went pale. Dawan, you need to see this. Someone on the hospital board just sent some interesting information about the king's offer. It's not as simple as it seems. Commander Yong's phone buzzed at the same time. Her expression turned serious as she read the message. Your Majesty, she said carefully, we may have a problem. Some people on Earth are not happy about this offer to Dr. Han, and some of your own nobles are apparently against it too. The king's expression darkened, and his platinum hair moved like storm clouds. Ah, he said, I was afraid this might happen. Dr. Han, it seems your decision may be more complicated than we thought. Dr. Song Jia-yun led Dawan to her office, away from the cold room where the royal family waited. Her hands shook slightly as she pulled up files on her computer. Look at this, she said, pointing to an email chain between hospital board members. They've been talking to military officials. They don't want you to go to the alien world as a doctor. They want you to go as a spy. Daewon felt his stomach drop. A spy? That's ridiculous. I'm a doctor, not a secret agent. They think you could gather information about alien technology, not just medical technology. Everything. Jia-yun's voice was quiet but worried. They're planning to force you to accept the position. Commander Yong appeared at the door, her face grim. It's worse than that. She closed the door and lowered her voice. Some people in our government see this as a once-in-a-lifetime chance to get ahead of other nations. They're putting intense pressure on the president. Daewon sat down heavily. But what about the alien nobles? Why are they against this? Commander Yong pulled out her tablet and showed them a translated message from the Lyran royal court. Many of them think sharing advanced medical technology with Earth is too dangerous. They believe humans aren't ready. They might be right, Jia-yun said softly. Look how some people are already trying to use this for their own benefit. Back in the cold room, Princess Era was waiting anxiously. When Daewon returned, she could tell something was wrong by his expression. You found out about the politics, didn't you? She asked. Her silver hair moved slowly, showing her concern. Why didn't you tell me? Daewon asked. King Tahoe stepped forward. Because we hoped to find a solution first. Dr. Han, when you saved my daughter, you showed the best of what humans can be. Creative, caring, and willing to help without asking for anything in return. But now everyone wants something, Daewon said bitterly. Not everyone, Era said. She touched the crystal device her father had shown earlier, and the hologram changed. This is what I wanted to show you, the real gift. The hologram showed a new building, smaller than the Royal Medical Academy, but beautiful in its own way. It seemed to blend Earth and Lyran architecture. This would be the first human Lyran medical center, Era explained. Built here on Earth, a place where doctors from both worlds could work together, learning from each other. Daewon stared at the image. But your nobles. Some will oppose it. King Tahoe agreed. Just as some humans will try to use it for their own purposes. But this is why we chose you, Dr. Han. You see beyond politics. You see people who need help. Commander Yong studied the hologram carefully. This could work. A joint facility would be easier to monitor and control than sending our doctors to your world. And harder for anyone to misuse, Jia-yun added, understanding dawning on her face. But before they could discuss it further, alarms began blaring throughout the hospital. Red lights flashed in the corridors. What's happening? Era asked, her hair swirling with anxiety. Commander Yong checked her phone and her face went pale. Someone breached the hospital's security. They're trying to reach this floor. Military? Daewon asked. No, Commander Yong said grimly. Private contractors. They're after the alien medical technology. They must have learned about the gift. King Tahoe's crystal armor began to glow brightly. "We need to leave. Now." "No," Daiwan said firmly, surprising everyone. "If we run, it proves to everyone that our worlds can't work together, that humans aren't ready." He turned to Commander Yang. "How long until hospital security reaches us?" 3 minutes. "And how long until they get through the security doors to this section?" 2 minutes. Daiwan looked at the king and princess, then at his friends. "Then we have 2 minutes to prove that humans and Lyrans can solve problems together." "Princess, you said your people use light for everything. Can your father's armor produce a bright enough flash to stun without harming?" Era's eyes widened. "Yes, but..." "Commander Yang, can you get the security teams to wear eye protection when they arrive?" A slow smile spread across Commander Yang's face as she understood the plan, already sending the order. As they heard footsteps approaching down the hall, Daiwan turned to King Tahoe. "Your Majesty, I think it's time to show everyone why our peoples need to work together and what happens when we do." The footsteps in the hallway grew louder. Dr. Han Daiwan worked quickly, positioning everyone in the room according to his plan. King Tahoe stood by the door, his crystal armor glowing brightly. Princess Era stayed behind her father, ready to help control the light burst. "Commander Yang, are the security teams ready?" Daiwan asked. She nodded, adjusting her protective goggles. "They're in position, all wearing eye protection." "Dr. Song, is the hospital's camera system off?" "Yes," Jia confirmed. "We don't want to damage any equipment with the light flash." They could hear the intruders trying to break through the final security door. Daiwan took a deep breath. "Your Majesty, on my signal." The door burst open. 5 people in black tactical gear rushed in, carrying strange-looking devices. They stopped short when they saw King Tahoe. "Now," Daiwan shouted. The king's armor released a brilliant flash of light, so bright it seemed to bend reality. The intruders dropped their weapons, covering their eyes. In the same moment, hospital security teams rushed in from both sides of the hallway, quickly taking control of the situation. "Perfect timing," Commander Yang said, helping the security teams secure the intruders. And look what they were carrying. She picked up one of the drop devices. Scanner technology. They were trying to steal Liran medical secrets. As the security teams led the intruders away, King Tahoe turned to Daiwan. "You just proved something very important, Doctor." "What's that, Your Majesty?" "That humans and Lyrans working together are stronger than either of us alone. You used our technology, but in a way we never would have thought of." Princess Era stepped forward, her silver hair moving excitedly. "That's why we need the Joint Medical Center, Father. Not just to share knowledge, but to find new ways of thinking." Dr. Song Jia was checking the intruders' equipment. "These scanners, they're advanced, but not alien technology. Someone on Earth funded this operation. Someone with a lot of money and influence." Commander Yang nodded grimly. "We'll find out who. But this incident actually helps us. It shows why we need an official, controlled way for our worlds to work together." Daiwan looked at the hologram of the proposed medical center, still floating in the air. He thought about everything that had happened, saving Era's life, with a combination of Earth and Liran methods, stopping the intruders with teamwork from both worlds. Finally, he knew what he had to do. "Your Majesty," he said, turning to King Tahoe, "I've made my decision about your offer." The room went quiet. Even Era's hair seemed to pause its constant movement. "I'm honored by the invitation to be royal physician," Daiwan continued. "But I think I can do more good here on Earth, helping to build this medical center. We need a place where doctors from both worlds can work together, learn from each other, and find new ways to help people." King Tahoe smiled. "That's exactly what we hoped you would say." "Really?" Daiwan asked, surprised. Era laughed, her hair sparkling. "Father never wanted you to leave Earth permanently. We needed someone we could trust to lead the Joint Medical Center. someone who understands both worlds. The offer to train at the Royal Medical Academy still stands, the king added. But instead of 3 years, you would spend 3 months there, learning our basic techniques. Then you would return to Earth to oversee the center's construction. Commander Young stepped forward. The government will support this. It's a much better solution than sending our doctors away or letting foreign powers try to steal the technology. And I'll help coordinate the research programs, Jai-yun added excitedly. Think of all we could discover together. Day-one felt a weight lift from his shoulders. This was the right choice, not just for him, but for both worlds. When do we start? He asked. King Taeho touched his crystal device, and the hologram changed to show detailed plans for the medical center. Construction begins next month. But first, we need to make an announcement to both our worlds. Are you ready to help us tell everyone about the future of medicine? Looking around at his friends, human and alien, Da-won nodded. Yes, Your Majesty. I think it's time for a new chapter in healing. 3 months passed quickly at the Royal Medical Academy on Lyra. Dr. Han Da-won stood in front of a large crystal window, looking at the beautiful purple sky of the alien world. Tomorrow, he would return to Earth to begin the next phase of their plan. Are you ready for your final test? Princess Era asked, entering the room. Her silver hair moved gently in patterns that Da-won had learned meant she was happy. As ready as I'll ever be, he replied, touching the crystal medical tool at his belt. After weeks of practice, he could now use basic Lyran healing technology. The test chamber was huge, with walls made of shifting light. 5 of Lyra's best healers watched as Day-one demonstrated what he had learned. He used light-based tools to diagnose problems, showed how to operate a small restoration chamber, and explained how Earth medicine could work together with Lyran technology. Excellent, said the head healer when Day-one finished. You've learned more in 3 months than most students learn in a year. That's because he thinks differently, Era explained proudly. He sees connections we miss because we're too used to our own ways. Back on Earth, construction of the new medical center was almost complete. Dr. Song Jai-yun sent daily updates about the building's progress. They had combined Earth's strong materials with Lyran crystal technology, creating something entirely new. The day Day-one returned to Earth, hundreds of people waited outside the new building. News cameras recorded as his shuttle landed. Commander Yong stood at attention with a team of security officers, making sure everything was safe. Welcome back, Jai-yun said, hugging him as he walked down the shuttle's ramp. Wait until you see what we've built. The medical center was beautiful. Earth's steel and glass worked together, with Lyran crystals, to create a building that seemed to glow from within. Special cold rooms for Lyran doctors sat next to traditional Earth operating rooms. In the center, a large restoration chamber waited to help its first patients. This is amazing, Day-one said, walking through the halls. But now comes the hard part, teaching doctors from both worlds to work together. The first group of Earth doctors arrived the next day. They stared in wonder at the Lyran technology. At the same time, 5 Lyran healers came to learn about Earth medicine. Day-one watched as they studied things like stethoscopes and blood pressure monitors with great interest. Your tools are so simple, one Lyran healer said, but they work in ways we never considered. Maybe we rely too much on advanced technology. Over the next few weeks, amazing things happened. Earth doctors learned to use light-based healing tools. Lyran healers discovered that Earth's primitive methods could sometimes work better than their advanced technology. Together, they began creating new ways to help patients. Look at this, Jai-yun said one day, showing Day-one some test results. When we combine Earth's antibiotics with Lyran light therapy, they work 10 times better. We're curing infections faster than either world could alone. Princess Era visited often, helping to bridge the gap between the two medical traditions. She worked with Earth doctors to create new treatment methods that used both worlds' knowledge. Remember when you used bioluminescent compounds to help heal me? She asked Day-one. Now we're using that idea to help patients on both worlds. The media called it the greatest advance in medical history. People from all over Earth came to the center for treatment. Some Lyrans even traveled to Earth specifically to learn Earth medical techniques. One day, as Day One watched an Earth doctor and a Lyran healer work together to help a patient, Commander Yong stood beside him. "You know," she said, "when you first treated Princess Era, nobody could have imagined this. You've built more than a medical center. You've built a bridge between worlds." Day One smiled, touching the crystal medical tool he now carried alongside his Earth equipment. "This is just the beginning," he said. "Think about what else our worlds could do together." Just then, his communication crystal lit up with an urgent message from King Taio. "Dr. Han," the king's voice said, "we need your help. There's been an accident on one of our space stations. Both humans and Lyrans are hurt. We need someone who understands both species' medicine." Day One looked at Commander Yong. She nodded, already calling for a shuttle. "This is what we trained for," he said, grabbing his medical kit, a mixture of Earth tools and Lyran crystals. Two worlds working together to help everyone. 5 years had passed since the day Princess Era crash-landed on Earth. Dr. Han Dawon stood in his office at the Human Lyran Medical Center, looking at the awards and photos on his wall. Each one told a story of two worlds working together to save lives. His favorite photo showed him with Princess Era and Dr. Song Jae-yun after they saved everyone on the space station. That emergency had proved that their medical partnership could work even in the worst situations. "Thinking about old times?" asked a musical voice. Era stood in the doorway, her silver hair moving gently. She visited Earth regularly now, helping to run the exchange program. "Hard to believe it's been 5 years, Dai-won said. "Remember when I first treated you with bioluminescent compounds?" Era laughed. "Now that's standard treatment in hospitals across both worlds. Father says it was the simplest but most brilliant idea he'd ever seen." They walked together through the medical center. In one room, Earth doctors taught Lyran healers about emergency medicine. In another, Lyran teachers showed humans how to use advanced healing crystals. Dr. Han called Dr. Song Jae-yun from her research lab. "Come see our latest results." They hurried to her lab, where she showed them data on a large screen. "We've finally done it," she said excitedly. "By combining Earth's stem cell therapy with Lyran light healing, we can regrow damaged organs in half the time. It works for both species." Commander Yong joined them, looking prouder than ever. She had been promoted to Director of Interstellar Medical Security, making sure both worlds shared medical knowledge safely. "The program's success has gone far beyond medicine," she said. "Other countries are using our medical center as a model for cooperation in science, technology, and culture." Just then, King Tahoe's image appeared on the crystal communication device. "Dr. Han, congratulations on 5 years of success. Are you ready for the next step?" "Next step?" Dai-won asked. The king smiled. "We want to build 5 more medical centers around Earth, and 5 on Lyra too. You've proved that our worlds can work together. Now it's time to expand." Daewon looked at his friends, Ira with her flowing silver hair, Jae-yun with her brilliant research mind, and Commander Yong with her steady leadership. Together, they had changed the future of medicine. "There's something else," Era said, her hair moving in excited patterns. "Show him, Father." The king's hologram changed to show a new kind of spacecraft. "This is the first medical rescue ship built by both our worlds. It can reach anywhere in the solar system in hours, and we want you to be its first director." Day One stared at the image in amazement. The ship combined Earth's practical design with Lyran crystal technology. It was a flying hospital, ready to help anyone in space. "Think of how many more lives we could save," Jae-yun said softly. "The ship needs both human and Lyran medical teams," Commander Yong added, "working together, just like you taught us." Day One thought about his journey, from a regular doctor in Seoul to someone who helped bridge the gap between worlds, all because he tried something new when an injured alien princess needed help. "You know what still amazes me," he said to Ara. "That first night, when I used earth medicine to help you, I thought I was just doing my job. I never imagined it would lead to all this." "That's exactly why it worked," Ara replied, her hair shimmering. "You didn't think about politics or power. You just wanted to help. That's what made Father trust you with our medical knowledge." Looking around at the busy medical center, Da1 saw Earth doctors in cooling suits working with Lyran healers. He saw patients from both worlds being treated with the best of both medicines. Most importantly, he saw hope for the future. "Your Majesty," he said to King Tahoe's hologram, "I would be honored to help expand our program. After all, there are probably more worlds out there who could teach us even more about healing." The king smiled. "Indeed, Dr. Han. Indeed, this is just the beginning of a much bigger journey." As Dawan looked at the plans for the new medical ship, he realized that his greatest gift hadn't been the alien technology or the prestigious position. It had been the chance to show that when different worlds work together, amazing things are possible. And it all started with a doctor who was willing to try something new to help a patient in need.